What is up, MSF family? Goofy Rexy here, and hope everybody is having a wonderful day, night, evening, whatever it is, morning, whenever it is that you do watch this video here. So I wanted to make a video talking about what you should do after you are done with your Dark Dimension 2 run. So for me, as I said already, Dark Dimension 2, I consider that to be the mid-game point now because of DD3, DD4. I would consider those to be more so late game content. So I would say Dark Dimension 2 now, is, pretty much basically a mid-game point. Obviously, you want to get through Dark Dimension 2. You want to get that shiny toy, in Ultron. But what do you do after you're done, with your run, with your 2 runs of Dark Dimension 2? What do you do? So that's what I'm going to be talking about here. Obviously, I think this is going to be good for mid-game players who are already at this point, or you're planning to get to this point, or if you're a beginner and you're eventually looking to be able to get Ultron. I'm hoping that this is going to be a helpful video for you. And of course, if you have questions about anything, ask in the comments or join my Discord and ask questions there. But let's dive into it, guys. Well, the first thing that I'm going to say, I'm going to go through 5 things today. The first thing that I'm going to say is that it got Ultron. Build the bad boy up. What you gonna get him for and not use him, man? Get Ultron and build him up. I would say a good initial stopping point. Eventually, you're gonna want to get him to like gear tier 14. He's really good, but a good initial point, and I said this in the previous video earlier this week, is that you want to get him to like 71 and 12. That should be good enough for him to be effective for you in your arena shard. It should be effective enough for him to be able to be used in your raids. If you're doing U7, you probably want to consider 13. You probably want to consider 13. So that's the one amendment I will make to the video, is that if you are going to be doing U7, then you're probably going to want to bring him up to 13. That's probably where you're going to find the most value out of him. And those T4s that I put into him, the special and that ultimate, are very, very, very good. But the first thing I would say is build up Ultron. He's an incredibly valuable tool. You realize that, you probably already seen it already, right? A lot of later game players who are, facing these Marauders and facing these Black Order teams, or mainly Marauders, are using, Ultron as a hybrid, kind of player, plug and play player that you can use to beat those those big Marauder teams. So definitely very good. He's a phenomenal PvP character too. So for RTA, also very good later on just general PvP. He's a very good PvP character. So Ultron, very valuable tune. One of the first things that you're gonna want to do is build up that Ultron. So definitely that's the direction that I would go in. The next thing that I wanted to talk about that you should definitely be doing also is that you should be going to completing farming for legendaries, right? Number one, you should be doing this from day one anyways. And I will preach this until I'm blue in the face, which is going to be kind of hard because of, let's move on. Let's digress. But I'm going to keep on talking about it until everybody gets it, or until I just feel like I don't need to anymore. But farming for legendaries is the most important thing that you should be doing from the very beginning part of this game. And that does not change as you get to the mid-game point. You probably don't have Phoenix yet. You probably don't have, Black Bolt or Ebony Maw, or maybe you do, but you should be progressing here and pushing towards getting legendaries. You see my Doc Ock? I just got him. I'm really excited about it, actually, as a matter of fact. But this is not about me. This is not about me. What I'm saying is that you're going to want to get your legendaries, guys. So if you haven't gotten characters like Phoenix, if you haven't gotten Ebony Maw, if you haven't gotten Black Bolt, then you're going to need to continue to farm for legendaries. You're going to want to getting to the campaign nodes, that you need to be able to get characters for those legendaries. So I would say continue to progress and farm for your legendaries. And this is actually going to dive right into the third thing that I'm going to talk about, which is to start planning and building up for those late game campaign nodes or later game campaign nodes. And what I mean by that are like your later heroes campaign. So your heroes, chapter 7 campaign, right? Colossus is in that campaign. When you get Phoenix, you're going to want to have Colossus, because Colossus and Phoenix are a very good tandem together. They're also a very good arena tandem for you too. So if you are able to get them, shortly after you do get Ultron, using Phoenix and Colossus, and of course, if as you get Black Bolt and Ebony Maw, you can, use those characters in your arena shard. Dynamic, powerful duo. So definitely being able to get through a late game or later game, campaign like Heroes Chapter 7, is something that I would definitely say that you should plan to do. Also, you're going to be getting some other additional orange gear that you can farm, right? So arcane powder you need, you're going to need some of this other orange gear, superior. You're mainly going to want to farm some of these other things, but mainly for the later heroes campaigns. Really what it is, or you have options to farm some of that late orange gear. That's not the primary focus of the heroes campaign. It's really mainly to be able to get to like characters like Colossus, so that you could farm a character like Colossus, and then the added bonus is that extra gear, that extra orange gear that you're going to be able to farm in that Heroes 7 campaign. For your Villain 7, Hela, the Villain 7-6, very important campaign node. You're going to need Hela to be able to farm Hela so that you can get Black Bolt, and you're also going to need Hela so that you can get Phoenix. Or you're going to want to use Hela to be able to get to Phoenix. So very good, very good at plan to actually start going through these to plan out the teams that you need for these later game nodes. For heroes, you're gonna need some city hero characters, and then for the first 3 nodes, you're gonna need some city hero characters. Here, we're gonna need global characters, and then towards the end, you are gonna need cosmic hero characters. For your villains campaign, you're going to need AIM, Hydra, Sinister Six. So if you get lucky with Zemo is going to be a very good hybrid team. You can use them on a hybrid team, or you can use a full AIM team at power level 130 to 150 to be able to get through the first 3 nodes here. And then here you're going to need mystic villain characters, to get through this portion of it. And then later on here, you can use whatever villains characters that you do have to be able to get through it. And then you're going to need, for your Nexus campaign, you're going to want to get to the Karnak node, right? So for the first 3 nodes, you can use whatever team. Here is where you're going to have to use either Kree, Guardian, don't use Kree, Guardian or Asgardian. So hopefully you would have an Asgardian team that you can use to 3-star this Karnak node. Karnak is very important to be able to unlock Ebony Maw. And then of course here, getting to Thanos, you're going to be able to use Shield, Brotherhood, or X-Men. So you're going to obviously want to get to Thanos, right? Because Thanos is a part of that Black Order team. So very, very important. But yes, start playing for these later game nodes. For your Doom campaign, getting to Negasonic here, at least for chapter 1, you're going to want to at least be able to get to Doom chapter 1-9 so that you can unlock, Dr. Octopus later on. Doc Ock is really kind of rising as a phenomenal legendary character, in this game. So I would say he's another kind of like top legendary character that you're going to want to plan out for after you're done with your Dark Dimension 2 run as well. So listen, that would be my recommendation, guys. For my third recommendation for the things that you should do after you're done with Dark Dimension 2. Now, the next one, this is the 4th one now, is to start building out some of those war teams. And I'll show you some of the options that you have available to you here. So obviously you got Ultron. We talked about how Ultron is pretty much basically like a hybrid plug and play character that you can use on a bunch of different war teams. If you did use that AIM team, then you can use Ultron and on an AIM-Tron team, right? AIM-Tron, they're pretty good, for a starter war team that you can use. Brotherhood 2.0 is also another good team that I use a lot, even right now, even though I'm in Gold 4. I do use them often, to do counters in war. And Magneto is pretty accessible early as a legendary. So I'm assuming that at this point, you probably would have already had Magneto. So I would definitely recommend, using the Brotherhood 2.0 team. I find a lot of valuable use for them. The Fantastic Four team, recommended legendaries to go after in the very beginning part of the game is Invisible Woman and Shuri, by farming the Sinister Six team. So I'm assuming that you already have Invisible Woman, and the Fantastic Four team is a very good team. I use Ultron with my Fantastic Four team now, and looking to build them up a little bit later on, also because they are a pretty good team that I can use in war. Your Asgardians are also a very good team too for war, that you can use. I know they're a defensive team, but at the point where I'm talking about right after Dark Dimension 2, most likely for you the offense is going to be incredibly more important for you for war than is defense. So I would 100%, use an Asgard. If you have Hela and you have the full Asgardian team, I would use them as a war offense team. And then some other teams that I mentioned too, I thought to mention were Supernatural. If you got the symbiotes, you could use them, but they're hard to, Scream and Anti-Venom are not farmable. And then, Symbiote Spider-Man is hard to get from the milestone orbs. Mercs are another good one, but Taskmaster is not farmable. And then X-Force, the characters are farmable, but Negasonic is in that late game mode. But war offense teams, I think, are another direction for you to go in here. Don't go too crazy. I would say ideally have about four war offense teams, at least initially to start out with, and then later on you can start to kind of build out some of the team. I forgot to mention Power Armor if I didn't mention them already. Power Armor is also another good one. If you don't have Ironheart, you can actually use Vision with the other 4 Power Armor characters. So just my thing is just get 4 initial sort of war offense teams that you can use so that you can actually do some attacks in war after you're done with your Dark Dimension 2 run here. It would be my recommendation. And then the last thing for me is start planning towards Dark Dimension 3, right? That's obviously you're done with Dark Dimension 2 now, so start planning towards Dark Dimension 3. I would start hoarding some of that gear, which is the reason why I said initially not to bring up Ultron. Ultron does take a lot of gear to get to gear tier 13, but obviously if you are in U7, it's going to change the dynamic of it. You're going to need Ultron to be a little bit more powerful, so therefore I would say start working a little bit on maybe he might be worth bringing up to gear tier 13 for you if you are doing those that Ultimate 7 node, but start hoarding some of that gear, right? So look at the characters that you need for your Dark Dimension 3 run. Phoenix is a very good character. I know that there's people who say that you don't need Phoenix to do Dark Dimension, which I agree. I don't think you need her. You can get it done without her, but because she is such a valuable character in Arena, she's still a valuable character in War Offense later on as you get legendaries. I should have mentioned that earlier, that once you do get those legendaries like Phoenix, like Black Bolt, like like Ebony Maw, you can start building out some of those War Offense teams too. But I didn't mention them obviously because at the point where you were, those teams probably won't be accessible to you. But if you do have those characters, by the way, Ebony Maw, Black Bolt, Phoenix, whatever, start working on Doc Ock, start working on those war offensive teams too, if you can, or once you do get them working on those war offense teams. But then, yeah, for specifically what I'm talking about right now, which is your Dark Dimension 3 run, I would start prepping for your Dark Dimension 3 run. I would start, looking at the characters that you need for your Dark Dimension run, right? So Phoenix, looking at the gear that you need, start grabbing those mini uniques, start grabbing the superior uniques. If it's Ebony Maw, you start grabbing those superior uniques, those mini uniques, things like that, so that you are getting yourself ready and prepared to go into Dark Dimension 3 as soon as you possibly can. And so grabbing them from a supply store, grabbing them from the war store, would be my recommendation. But listen, these are my 5 tips here. This is what I would do, once you are done. And just to kind of quickly recap, right? The first thing, build up Ultron, get him to gear tier 12. If you need him for raids, if you're doing Ultimus raids, then get him to gear tier 13. For you to be able to do that. Second thing, continue to farm for legendaries. Black Bolt, Phoenix, Ebony Maw, Doc Ock, get those later game legendaries. Then start planning, the third thing, start planning and building up for the late game campaign nodes, right? Get into Colossus node, get into the Hela node, get into Karnak and Thanos' node, get into the Negasonic node, start getting yourself, start building out teams that you need for those particular campaign nodes. Then start building out war teams. I said 4 war teams initially. You don't need more than that at that point, I would assume, unless you're climbing up in war, then maybe you might need a little bit more. But I think initially, right after Dark Dimension 2, probably going with 4 war offense team is probably a good place to go. You have a bunch of options, BH 2.0, you have Ultron, use them on a hybrid team, as Guardians are still good, Fantastic Four, Supernatural. And then of course, if you do have those legendaries already, then use your Inhumans, use your Black Order, use your X-Men, whatever it is. If you have those teams, then use them. Doc Ock, Sinister Six, use those teams if you already have those legendaries. And then the last thing, prep for Dark Dimension 3, hoard your gear, hoard the gear that you need, or start getting that gear that you need, for your Dark Dimension 3 tunes. figure out who your Dark Dimension 3 toons are going to be and start saving up that gear, you know, that you're going to need for them. And of course, like I said, grabbing those mini uniques in a supply from the supply store and then from the war store. Listen, guys, hope this was a helpful video. If you have any questions, hard to go over everything in one video, but if you have any questions about anything, let me know. Happy to help, guys. Appreciate you guys very much. Y'all be blessed and y'all be safe.